And moving on to item 8.6, approval of an overtime contract between the Mason County Sheriff's Office and Mason County Fire District Number 6 for security work at their board meetings. And Chief Drackley, if you wouldn't mind coming forward and doing a quick briefing.
Not sure where you want me to go with this. I was contacted by the chief out there, asked for to run a security work at their monthly meetings due to some problems with some of the folks that show up. He just wanted to make sure that everything was okay and wanted to enter into an overtime contract with us since we were going to not be able to put somebody out there in regular time.
Okay. Any questions from the commission? Just one question. Do you, is this standard? Have you received other requests from other organizations in the past to do similar work?
Yes, we have. One of them was up in Belfair a few years ago where we, Belfair Water District, I think. Was it the Water District? Yeah. And we'd done very similar work to that. It was just a contentious set of meetings that they had. And just our presence being there helps calm the scenario and keep people in line.
Okay, very good. Are there any questions from the public for the chief?
I would just like to ask, did you ever receive any documentation with the request so that it looked like the Fire District 6 elected commissioners were making this request?
No, the request was directly from the chief out there, and the contract was signed by the chief.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Chief Drackley?
Is there an indication of what kind of turmoil this is or controversy?
No, it was not.
And can you be specific to Chief Volk that requested?
Volk? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Chief. We'll move into public comment. Again, if you'd like to make public comment on this, raise your hand. The chair will recognize you. Come forward, state your name and where you live, and make your comments.
So, my name is Constance Simpson, and I live at 6500 East State Route 106 in Union. I am a taxpayer in Mason County Fire District 6. So first, I want to thank the commission for following these procedures, because the only reason I knew that my fire department was contracting for extra duty officers was because it was on your agenda, which you put out every Thursday afternoon. So I really appreciate that. I have attended many meetings this year of the fire department, and I specifically attended the April and May meetings. And this request, or any idea about this request, was not on an agenda, and it was not discussed. And I realized that the sheriff department, this is a kind of a routine thing to have extra officers at events, and that you need to account for the revenue when it comes in. But this is kind of no ordinary, it's ongoing through the end of this year. And for some reason, I assumed that the elected officials were making the request. Or just like if I was making it for the Hood Canal Improvement Club, we would probably have the president of the club who is elected to make that request. And this request was made by basically appointed staff that serves at the will of the elected officials. So I really strongly urge you to establish and include, kind of tweak this process that requires documentation that elected officials, elected officers of organizations are authorizing that this contract, that they're entering into this contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Any other public comment on item 8.6? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public comment period and move to commissioner deliberation or motion. Commissioner?
Yeah, little comment on that. We received several emails, and although I appreciate where they're coming from, I want to make clear on your request, it can't really work that way, because more often than not in these organizations, there's a chief or somebody who actually has the authority to spend up to a certain amount of money and enter into that contract. It's not up to us to make those decisions on whether they should or shouldn't, or can or can't. That's up to their commission. not up to us, but I would assume that a chief has the authority to enter into that contract. Some of the things that were sent to us was the idea that it's up to that board to enforce Robert's Rules of Order. That sounds good on the outside, but the truth of the matter is, you can tell them, hey, it's Robert's Rules of Order, you have to follow. They go, yeah, screw you. They can get right in your face and say, wait a minute, you can't hit me, it's against Robert's Rules of Order. So, you know, the law enforcement over the years, especially in North Mason, we've seen quite a few of them. You remember the years of Tahuya. People weren't getting hurt, and they don't get hurt until they do. Until one person loses their faculties and does something stupid and hurts somebody. But when having an officer that's there, standing there, I've never seen one get involved outside of when it was absolutely necessary to escort somebody out. They don't speak, they don't literally get involved at all, and they actually make sure that the citizen is kind of given the same protection as well. So I want to make it clear that this works as a benefit to everybody, and the fact that they're paying to do it, how do you deny them that request? And if you did, and something happens, who's responsible for that? That would be our fault because they did a lawful request, offered to pay for it, and we deny them, and so somebody else got hurt. I don't want to take that responsibility on.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I think what I'd like to say is that I've been to a few events where it could have gotten out of control, but just having the police officers there just kind of sets the mood, sets everybody in the right frame of mind where things calm down. People don't get too excited.
Thank you. I'll just add, this is in my backyard. I'm a resident of.
That was a director that did that, by the way.
Was a director.
Yeah.
I'm a resident of Mason County Fire District 6. I live in Union. I've received a number of emails regarding this decision. There's what it is, and then there's what it isn't. And for us, this is a housekeeping vote that we're going to be taking today. But it doesn't address some of the broader issues that are occurring in the fire district that you have elected representation to address. I go to a number of our meetings here at the county where we have a sheriff's office presence. Right now is a good example of that. A lot of times we have sheriff's office personnel in our briefings, regular briefings on Mondays. It's not uncommon to see that at other meetings. We were at a joint meeting with the city council last week, and the police chief was there. I'm sure he had an interest in some of the things that we were discussing, but there was a armed law enforcement presence at that meeting. I have never been to a meeting where the presence of law enforcement has prevented people from speaking to their elected representatives, and the ability to hold elected officials accountable, to make sure that they're operating their government in an open and transparent way, is the responsibility of the electorate, of the citizens. And I don't believe that the sheriff's office presence at your fire district meetings, commission meetings, are going to prevent that. I think they're there to ensure that it's a safe space so that members of the public can continue to hold their elected officials accountable. And it seems like there's quite a bit to go in the fire district to ensure that that those meetings are maintained in an open and transparent way. And so I will be supportive of this contract today, as I have been supportive of all the other sheriff's requests for sheriff's overtime work contracts that have come before me as a commissioner. That is very much so, though, separate from the other issues that need to be resolved in the fire district, and I trust the voters and I trust the people of Mason County Fire District 6 that they'll hold their electeds accountable in order to ensure that they're continuing to uphold their end of the deal as well. So I will be supportive of this today.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of the overtime contract between the Mason County Sheriff's Office and Mason County Fire District Number 6 for the security work at their board meetings.
Second.
It's Been moved and seconded to approve the overtime contract with the follow-on approval of a supplemental increase with the specific amounts to be determined later in the year. Any additional discussion?
Just one little comment. I remember in Tahuya when a board went a little bit over the top, I remember the officer actually looking at him saying, no, we don't do that. Literally. So it does work both ways.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion carries.